Hello and welcome to FinTechTalk. I'm your host, Charles Orton-Jones. Each week, our promise to you is to bring you the world's foremost experts in FinTech on any given subject. And this week, we've outdone ourselves. The subject is data analytics, the next generation of technology. Brought two globally renowned authorities on this subject. And I'm delighted to welcome our first guest, Emad Shawki. Emad, if you turn your camera and mic on, fantastic. From work. Emad, where in the world are you joining us from?
I'm joining from Cairo, Egypt.
Fantastic. And I can introduce Emad as the Chief Data and Analytics Officer of Banque Missa, one of Egypt's largest banks. I believe, Emad, 590 branches around the country. Is that about right?
Yeah, it's almost 700 branches. It gets increased every year. So we have this mandate to financially include all the Egyptian population. So we keep on spreading our branches network, our ATMs network, our POSs everywhere in the country.
That is quite an enterprise. Well, I'm so pleased you could join us. And our second guest is Vincent Ness of Keytrade Bank. And Vincent, I understand we're lucky to have you today. You tell us that the farmers are blockading Brussels.
Thank you, Charles. Yes, it is. It is. So working from home, it's the only option for now. But thanks for the introduction.
So good. Well, and roundabout, I suppose that we're not all working in the virtual world, that the physical world exists. Farmers blockading, real branches exist. But data analytics is very much in the world of the virtual world. I want to point to a news story to kick us off, because I thought this was just a stunning statistic. The news story we're going to link to suggests that 83% of banks do not have access to real-time analytics. Now, I love this because I hear a lot of bankers speaking, I hear CEOs speaking, and they love to amp up how great their organizations are. When you think that 83% of banks don't have access to real-time analytics, it suggests something's going horribly wrong, which is great for us because we can discuss what the challenges are and what the solutions are. Vincent, start with you. Why is it the banking world in such a mess over data analytics? Clearly, this is a very difficult subject to get right.
I think the numbers sound around right. I think it's mainly because banks are just built on a very secure level of foundation with a lot of legacy systems. I think that is the main issue. Where the technology was imported, let's say 20 years ago, and it's very hard to migrate from those kind of old legacy systems. And the second thing is all those fancy cloud processing softwares are all in the word cloud. And banks are by nature a little bit protective and want to keep their data inside, in their storage, in their basement with their very secure environment. So we have the tendency to not move things to the cloud. So it also goes a little bit slower if you need to do everything on premise due to computing power. And the other part is, I think beside from the cloud part, it's the security nature. I think banks are quite big organizations with a lot of compliance, risk, legal. So there is a lot around that part as well.
Good. Well, I'm hoping shortly we can give people some insights on how they can improve their systems, whatever organization they work with. Emad, let me just have a touch base with you. 83%. I mean, that's a ridiculous figure, really, when you think about, the aggressive nature banks talk about themselves, hyping themselves up. But, 83%, does that sound about right to you?
Yes, I think it's about right. And as you said, it's a good opportunity for us to do good work in these kind of banks that would expect to get very out of their data. I think also, in addition to what Vincent said, it's also about culture, how banks and all their massive branches network, if they have branches and the different collection points of data are there, standard practices, how to collect data the right way, how to store it the right way, how to maintain it the right way, is it there? And the second thing, in my opinion, that some banks fall into this trap by trying to find the perfect scenario where data is ready and the business use case is ready and the technology is ready and the regulation is ready. And it's most of the time, it's not the situation. So I think what might make this number better by time is try to find a good MVP, a good data product that has some readiness in the bank that will generate decent value. And this can be a good starting point, and this can definitely improve how banks get value from data rather than just wait for the perfect moment. And if these are my two additional points.
So you're advocating a kind of incremental approach almost, because we know that some banks have found their own system so terrible. They've tried to migrate to a new core, maybe on the cloud. Some have gone for greenfield banks. Some have gone for big bang upgrades that have gone horribly wrong. I think of TSB in the UK that absolutely balked their transfer. Millions of people shut out their account for days. But this is your philosophy, Emad, that we should be thinking about this in lots of incremental improvements.
Absolutely. Incremental improvement is definitely way better than trying to realize multiple $1 million opportunity. Why don't we start small, finding an MVP, start delivering some value, and then find another source of data, try to manage it, try to find some features for AI, try to deploy a solution, and then try to improve it. So I'm absolutely right. It's the iterative approach can solve a lot of problems, but it requires a lot of open mind kind of thinking to think vertically, not I want all the data in this kind of business or line of business to be ready. I want one use case. I want to cross-sell this product, take this risk of this specific product, and then deep dive to find the sources, manage the data, and find the AI features, and then deploy the solution. So this is how, yes, you're absolutely right. It's iterative.
I've got to just ask you, Emad, about the concept of real-time analytics. Now, other industries, it's standard. Banking, clearly it is not. But is this a necessary and desirable goal? Is this something all organizations should be striving for? Or is real-time overkill and unnecessary?
I think there are some decent value that can be driven from offline data, okay? However, the real customer experience, the true differentiator, which is real-time customer experience, where you can take the customer risk instantly and sell the right product at the right time, is usually done by real-time analytics. But that said, should I wait to have real-time analytics capabilities to start driving value from data? In my opinion, the answer is no. You can start drive value from data using offline kind of analytics, and at the same time try to build the technology stack that will allow you to do the real-time analytics in parallel, because it requires people to get acquainted with how data can help me in the selling and taking customer risk. So it has an educational and culture part, and we can make use of offline data to generate some value, spread the culture, while the technology stack is being built, or the challenges that Vincent said about the regulatory control environment, how to break this or how to solve these obstacles in parallel. This is how I see it.
All right. Vincent, same question to you. Is real-time analytics necessary for organizations? And I'd like everyone watching this to understand what the benchmark is of excellence. Maybe it's not necessary.
It's a very good question. And I fully follow Emad's opinion. Like, some processes needs to be nearly real time, like fraud detection and stuff like that. You only have a few seconds in making a transaction go through. You can't standing at an ATM or at the local pay point and then waiting for 5 seconds until a system answers. So it needs to be nearly real time, where you make a decision in allowing the transaction to go through or not. So there are parts which need to happen, like fraud detection really needs to happen in nearly real time, but it's not feasible to do all processes in real time. You can't spend all the processing power in also looking to historical data and stuff like that. It would just be too much to do. I know all AI processes want a lot of data, but you need to train them on offline data, and it needs to be in multiple pipelines where data goes through. Some is offline process, some is real-time process. So I know there is tendency to wanting to do everything real time, and for a customer experience, from a customer point of view, it needs to be real time. But data processing, it's just not how it works. Some data needs to be processed in batches overnight, even overnight, to offload some different servers that you don't stress the system too much, because it's just too much data.
The dreaded batch processing. Now, I worked for a core banking provider, Thought Machine, and their message was, you don't need to do batch processing. You can have everything in real time, but you need to move to a modern cloud-native core. Well, that's what they were selling. Maybe they would say that. I thought it was a pretty convincing pitch, and apparently so did their customers, such as Lloyds Bank, Mox in Singapore. Vincent, what's your opinion? I mean, people watching this may be scratching their heads and thinking, they're dealing on some core that was designed 30, 40 years ago. What do people need? What infrastructure do people need to build? We're talking about next generation data analytics. Can they do it with their old sort of on-prem cobbled together multi-core system? Or should they be thinking, no, we need to go cloud native, get on the cloud, and then anything's possible? What do you recommend?
For my opinion, but I'm a digital native, so I would say if you would start from scratch, like if you see the new banks popping up, the new digital banks like N26, like the new kind of iBanks, they start fresh. So it's quite easy. If you don't have a legacy system, you can build your own cloud architecture, very secure, security by design. You could do that. But if you have a lot of old legacy systems, and it's in a lot of banks, it's the case, you have different card providers like Monex or Visa or MasterCard, you need to implement those kind of older systems, which are just there, where you can't turn around. Even contact center software, or not all of them are API-based even. They still need the physical database. So then there is the privacy aspect. So you can't just like move everything to the cloud, and I know Azure and AWS, there is a very big discussion where they say, okay, everything is quite secure, but still, if there's something happening like war, like AWS could really access your data. So at some parts there are, even if you bring your own key, you encrypt everything, there is still a lot of fear to go to the cloud.
Yeah. Yes, there is.
From a legal point of view.
Yeah, I mean, banks are cautious, but maybe with good reason. Emma, what is your take? I mean, I don't know how much you can reveal about what happens at Bank Missa, but what is your philosophy? I mean, do you buy into this, that banks should go entirely cloud native and move over to modern, freshly designed cores? Or is it possible to achieve adequate results with legacy systems, just upgrading them?
Actually, we are a more than 100 years old organization, and we know exactly the amount of effort and the amount of integrations and the amount of investment we need to do to reach this kind of real-time maximizing the value of analytics in the bank. So we took a decision to actually start fresh with a new venture that is a digital native organization that will utilize the best in class modern kind of technology stack. And at the same time, we're trying to maximize the value we can get out of this 100 years old wealth of products, data, and know-how. So we're actually, we have actually decided to do dual kind of transformation, starting fresh, and do the transform the legacy organization. Regarding how we do it, I think there is no silver bullet here. You have to do all the tough decisions. You have to connect source by source. You have to integrate layer by layer to reach the real value of advanced analytics and AI. However, we are doing it on a business case by business case. We don't go to by the hype of things. We don't go to cloud just to go cloud. We don't go to real time just for real time. Does it add a value? Does it solve a business problem? Maybe the business problem is simpler than trying to hook up 10 layers on top of each other. Maybe we can try offline kind of analytics to solve something like a cross-selling problem or something like a credit risk problem. We're trying to be value-driven and find the optimum way and the shortest way to deliver this value. But again, we do all the tough decisions to make it happen, business use case by use case.
So you're telling me that you've essentially got a two-pronged approach. You've got a greenfield operation, and you're upgrading. Now, I just wonder what lessons you've drawn from that. I mean, just tell us about the greenfield operation. Is it actually running at the moment? And if it is, what do you think now? Because you're able to compare personally the two approaches, which I think is a wonderful perspective.
Yeah, I think that the greenfield, it's a luxury if you can do it. It's heaven for people like me to do greenfield. We take all the fancy technology advancements and put it in action day one. This the positive kind of things. On the other hand, the fresh start or a green field, it will be having zero data at starting point. So you'll start your brand, you'll start your to take some risks, whether to how to take customer risk without any historical data of default data and fraud data. So you're building something from scratch with the fancy kind of things, and also the tough kind of things that the brand kind of perception in the market and the data accumulation, etc. On the other hand, big opportunities with the wealth of data bring with it this kind of legacy technology, that integration obstacles, and as well the risk appetite to go into machine kind of decisions versus we need a human being to supervise the kind of decisions. So it's a balance. I don't think there is a happy place in any of them. You have also to cater for the challenges in both sides. But I think both have good opportunities, and at the same time has decent kind of challenges in both directions.
Okay, that's great. Vince, I have a really difficult question for you, which is, what does perfection look like? We're talking about data analytics, potentially real-time data analytics, but what would a bank look like that had achieved the best possible systems? Is it about the ability just to run any query across all systems involving all data? I'm just trying to envisage what banks should be thinking about if they're looking, say, 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead. How do you see it?
Well, I think what my personal optimal goal would be if we could have our own models running. Like there are some, and I think Emad mentioned it already, like you do small experiments, you do very small portionate things where you say, okay, I do a machine learning model for some fraud detection, or I'm doing some model in segmentation, but like having a very big AI, custom AI trained on your own data, which could answer directly very seconds, that would be the optimal goal. But it's the problem is the amount of data. It's just really big. So if you're asking me in terms of real-time data, I think for me it would be indeed starting fresh, a greenfield solution where you say, okay, we have all the data available, index cached, where it could be responding to queries directly. That would be. But I think it's a utopia. At some point, you need to make decisions. Some things can go real time and others can't.
Yeah, I must say, I'm fully sold on the whole cloud native idea. It just seems so much more convenient to build on freshly, bespoke cloud native software.
Emad mentioned something very interesting. Eh? Like if you start from a clean slate, it's you also need to gather data from that point. So if you're still needing to import a lot of old legacy data, and you need your old transformation layer, and you still are hitching behind. So it's a step-by-step process, and I think you should choose which processes you optimize, which process you need to bring to the cloud, and then it's a step-by-step. But it's going to take us many, many years to be fully cloud native. That is the reality.
Okay, I know you touched on AI, and I know that you're an AI aficionado. I mean, we've seen just incredible leaps with generative AI, just displaying competencies that even just 3 years ago we thought would be more than 10 years away. But tell us, in banking, how would this work? I mean, in fantasy world, but how does AI work now? But in fantasy world, how could AI work? I mean, you could have a system where you could almost verbally ask a system to run analytics on something, and it creates charts, it pulls up data. What's the potential?
I think as today, which is already implemented. If you look to Power BI, for example, they have a very powerful co-pilot. Now everybody can be a BI expert. You can just ask in a natural language way, please create me a dashboard, and the thing creates a dashboard. And you could ask or query the dashboard like, okay, how many is our loss or our profit or our growth? It could easily answer those kind of questions. So for internal use, perfect. For external use, and that is, and we did many of those proof of concepts. And I think when I hear chatbot again, like everybody's mentioning chatbot, I think it's the hype of today. But we spent, I think, 6 months implementing a chatbot, and at the end, it comes back down to a rule-based engine, because you don't want a chatbot to answer something which can damage your brand. And I don't know if you saw it, but a few days ago, like DPD, the world company, a delivery company, launched a chatbot, just ChatGPT, and it was like um, a poem about how bad their delivery was. So it's really terrible. So they put it down in 2 days. So that is the problem with, you can't control it. So if you need to control it, you need to spend months and months in controlling. If I question this should be the answer. If I question this, it should be the answer. So where is the benefit then of having like a fully autonomous chatbot if you still need to governance around it? But for things which can be useful, and where we did some experiments with, is, for example, in the secure environment, you don't want to ask a chatbot like, okay, can I still do a mortgage loan? But you want to know a real personal question, like, based on my mortgage, how much do I still need to repay? Or so that it can combine different sources. It can understand in natural language my question. It can search in your data warehouse, if you have a mortgage, what is still the debt to pay, and what are like the terms in the contract. Can you pay it? Are there any fines to pay? So for stuff like that, is generative AI is perfectly fine. Having in a very closed subset where you can control the environment. Also, there is a legal aspect in Belgium where you need to prove. So in general, AI doesn't have like proof. It just generates the next best word, and especially generative AI. It has no proof. So you really need to create a system where you create chunks and where the AI can really proves, I got this information out of this context of this document. So it's not just implementing ChatGPT, what a lot of companies try to do, and they fail due to those kind of reasons. So you need to innovate with AI, but do it very cautious, in a very data governance way, where you control the data, where you control the answers. And at the end, after spending a lot of time and money, then you think, yeah, wasn't it better to do back a rule-based chatbot where you have just a decision tree model? And so it's good for certain parts. And I think, especially for all the marketing purposes, we use it, for example, to read through all our customer reviews, segment them. Are they positive? Are they negative? Maybe auto reply internally to transfer the email to the right department. That kind of stuff, which is perfectly suitable with AI. But customer facing, I would really warn, in a professional context or in an enterprise context, be cautious, because it needs to be governed and controlled.
I like that, because we talk about next generation data analytics, which is a great headline. But I think, if the world had the gold Gartner hype cycle, I think we're currently in the moment of sort of sober realization. A lot of the technologies, I'm thinking maybe of Elon Musk here, a lot of the technologies that we were promised, driverless cars, have not appeared in the way we thought they might do. And that's about being cutting edge in banking is not always a blessing. But Vincent, I could ask you, what is therefore most difficult when it comes to creating next generation data analytics? I could imagine people watching this and thinking they've got all sorts of headaches in their organization and maybe feel as though that's unique to them. Things rarely are. What are the most difficult areas of making this a reality? I mean, moving to the cloud, that is difficult. Security, regulation, compliance, there are so many little obstacles there. What sort of things do you regard as generally pervasive across banking in terms of difficulties?
Yeah, for me, and I will let Emad finish it, but I think for me is choosing the right architecture and choosing or selecting the right tools, because like they all have a very big promise of, hey, we can do super real-time analytics and we have an embedded AI already in place, and then you spend months and months and months of implementation, and then you still come to to the realization phase where it's okay, maybe it's not that great. So the lean and mean approach, really quick, test something, validate something, and then go through with it. But selecting the right tools, I think it's for me. But
Good advice.
What do you?
Yeah, Emad, what do you think? Give us some advice on the best ways of upgrading and some of the most difficult obstacles people are going to find.
Yeah, I think the iterative approach, like what Vincent said and how we spoke earlier, this is very productive to test things fast, success fast or fail fast, and then optimize if it succeeded. So this is, I think, this should help. And I honestly, I didn't see it used much. People go for a big bang approach. They want everything. They want, like you said, Charles, they want autonomous car from day one that drives autonomously in the streets, and it doesn't work like this. Actually, I think the co-pilot is the name of the phase that we see now in Gen AI, because it didn't reach the right maturity where we leave it on unleashed. So I think with this concept, using Copilot for Gen AI, just to make sure that we have the right controls, but we get the right productivity, this is how I think AI should be tackled to solve a problem, not to go for a full hype. The second thing I think which is lacking, and I think it will help a lot the industry of getting the maximum out of data, is the culture part. Are we tuned as an organization to think data and get the best out of data, or we're a bank, our business is transactional. After the transaction, we don't worry about how the data got collected in this transaction, this value chain, and then we get stuck with decision making because data is not well captured, is not well maintained. We got the money out of the transaction, but we cannot use the data collected from this transaction for future kind of decisions and future kind of insights. This is the second. The last thing, from my opinion, is maybe the talent. Maybe I'm only suffering from this talent in my part of the world, but I think the talent part, we need to excite them about what we're building. Banking is a dry industry and doesn't necessarily excite people that are data scientists, and data science now are celebrities globally, that all the people want them and they want them to generate money out of nothing. So how to excite these people to go to this industry while they can go do some research, do some patents in tech, high R&D budget companies. This is my third thing, which is a real struggle to get right talent and to keep them in the organization, like a bank or like a financial or investment bank or a financial institution. Yeah.
Emma, talk about talent. No, go ahead, Vincent.
Oh yeah, it's right. I think it's like the bridging the talent gap. There you have, on one end you have like real data scientists, data engineers, and then you have like people with a lot of financial knowledge or with fraud knowledge. It's really building that gap between those kind of profiles. You don't need just a tech engineer. You really need a more bridge profile, and that is a little bit difficult. And also the other part was in not the typical banking environment, in a regular environment where you talk about like HR, there it's a very easy, it's a CRM, it's a very easy structure. But a bank is quite siloed. All the data is in different data silos. So to building insights and to overcome legacy systems and to building like a bridge data analytics system, you need to connect to all the different data silos. And that's where even an AI really struggles. You need to feed the system to, like, even if you include or incorporate Copilot, it will still not work quite well. You need the data to be structured very well in one table or at least in one framework. So it's not that easy.
Actually, a very difficult question to answer, which is to what degree you think people who run banks are up to date with the kind of latest technology? I mean, AI is moving so fast. Data integration is not a sexy topic. Do you think at board level there's a reluctance to maybe address stuff like data integration because it's difficult, and if it goes wrong, people get the sack? What do you think, Vincent? Is this an intimidating subject maybe for people over a certain age, or people without a tech background?
Yeah, I think for some it might. I can only speak for our bank. I think they're quite well aware of the opportunities that AI can bring, as well as the dangers that AI can bring, and the urgently need of having a very good data department with data engineers and data scientists. So I think there are banks already moving in that direction. I think maybe it's the fear of missing out, and because they also see that other banks are doing it, they're trying to offer like really personalized experiences where they really need to act in real time and where they really need to act those kind of AI models on top. So I think yes, but as I think Emad said as well, we are quite traditional, and the management boards are also quite traditional, and they are more on a secure, slow, paved way.
Cool. I'd like to ask really about the payoff here, the return on investment. I mean, Emad, in your organization, where do you see the big return on investment? I mean, the word fraud pops into my brain here, but which departments do you think have the biggest payoff when it comes to data analytics?
Actually, I think it depends on the way you position analytics. So if you position analytics towards more commercial, so for example, to help the salespeople to do the right cross-sell, to tackle the right cross-sell opportunities, or to upsell to the right customer at the right moment, or take an instant decision when it comes to credit risk, then the value is maximum, because now we're talking about the business transaction. And also, if we're talking about minimizing a fraud kind of transaction to avoid the loss. So this is the most valuable kind of use cases or deploying data. But there is also a second part which is operational efficiency, which is productivity. These kind of use cases usually generate value, but they are more of a long-term kind of realization, where they need a lot of time of picking up and change in business processes. So I think it's about what is the real business problem that the organization wants to solve. For us, we deployed AI first at the commercial transactions. We deployed in cross-selling, credit risk, fraud detection, and then we'll start now thinking about how to make some operational efficiency using AI, how to deploy AI in productivity kind of use cases. So this is a decision for every organization to think about. And I also want to comment on something very nice that Vincent said about the silos nature of large organizations. Actually, there is a good approach where we tried this cross-functional team structure, where we bring people from, for example, if we want to do this customer 360 view that usually spans many departments, many product lines, till you see this 360. Usually, it's easier to bring people at the same cross-functional team from business units that represent this business case or use case, that bring with them the know-how to make this team productive, rather than bring a single view for a single business unit and then try to break silo by silo. So actually, it's something also that will help generate value fast. This, if we adopted the iterative approach at the same time, a cross-functional team to generate value from different kind of parts of the bank at the same project or at the same time.
Okay. Vincent, I'd like to ask you, some of our viewers may be wondering how they can improve their skills to cope with the next generation of data analytics. And we've had, I don't know, the last 10 years, people learning stuff like the coding language R, so they can write their own queries. Are there any skills that you think are particularly relevant or going to be relevant over the next, I don't know, 5 or 10 years that you think people could invest in? Maybe even courses people could go on.
Yeah, still, I'm around in technology for the last 15, 16 years. And I saw different languages always popping up, but those comes back to Python. so even those fancy languages,
Never
it's
goes away.
still SQL and Python. There are a few like new techniques. What you see, especially in chatbots, like prompt engineering, are also a lot of guys really investigating how can I use a large language model and ask the right questions. It's really a skill. If you do it properly, you can get the most out of it. Like some people, it used to be a skill to be a very good Googler. It will be a skill to be a very good prompt engineer as well. So I believe if you want to do something in machine learning with AI, just try to focus on the prompt engineering part. Don't spend time, because I did. It was a waste of my time to try to build your own large language model.
Oh gosh,
don't do that.
That's ambitious. I salute your scale taking on OpenAI.
But just experiment with Python, SQL, and try out some of the new AI models. And there are a lot of playgrounds, a lot of online tools where you can experiment with. That's good enough, because I think those layers will be enough. Like I think all cloud providers, like what you see in Azure and AWS doing, they fully host a large language model. You don't need to spend time in okay, how can I deploy and scale that? I think that will be solved in the upcoming months and years. Focus on the implementation. How can I ask questions? Like Emad said, what are the right use cases? How can it bring value? Test those kind of things. That is the value maker, I think.
Love it. Yes, you never go wrong if you're an expert on Python. And Emad, same question to you. Any advice to people watching this who are thinking, what should they be learning to cope with the next revolution in data analytics? What advice can you give them?
And I think people now are in the heaven of knowledge. Knowledge now is public; it's everywhere. You'll get even knowledge if you're just browsing social media. Knowledge will jump to your face, and you'll get some useful information. I think going to a platform like many platforms like Kaggle, like GitHub, or these kind of open platforms that you can test, learn programming language like Python, and there are open projects that you can subscribe to them, try them out. They take you step by step without any prior knowledge to even programming, so you can get yourself a couple of successful trials here and there. There are many platforms like YouTube, Wealth of Knowledge, many platforms. I can even, it will take me time to say them all. So knowledge is public now. It's very easy. Python is, I think, I echo Vincent on this. It's the easiest, most public, and now we have many libraries that will do everything for you. You just need to know the usual kind of common sense, how to write a simple program, but all the complex stuff, the complex modeling and the complex algorithms are already built in, so you don't have to write them by yourself. And I think the no-code AI will start, and very soon data scientists will write nothing. They will just write a common English, and then there will be either a ChatGPT like or a compiler that takes this and generates value out of it. So I think it's that people need to learn. People need to get their hands dirty, but they need to get updated, because things change every week, not even every month. So yeah.
And to comment on that, we see now even juniors, if they have like the basic programming knowledge of like just, which was more data analysts before, who could like make a Tableau dashboard or Click or Power BI, with the very basic knowledge of Python, with a combination of ChatGPT, just trying trial and error, pasting it back in, letting an AI system comment, no, maybe you should. alter this or alter that, they get it working. So it's not perfect code, it's not the final end product, but MVP phase just to test it out, it perfectly works. So I would advise ChatGPT in combination with some trial and error Python. It's a good start just to get you up and running.
Okay, and my final question, guys, because we're out of time really, is how organizations can judge their status. I mean, people were listening to this and thinking, God, ChatGPT chatbots, talking about normal language AI queries, that sounds incredibly complicated. Bearing in mind, as we began, 83% of organizations have no access to real-time analytics. So 83% of organizations haven't really even got the basics done. But how can organizations tell if they're doing a good job or not? Vincent, how can people work out whether their organization is a laggard or a pioneer?
I think, and that's also what we do, is bringing that kind of startup mentality in a kind of separate department where you say, okay, we need the startup mentality, but doing it in an enterprise way. So having them totally separated, young guys who can say, okay, we see the competition is doing this and this and this and this, and firing all those crazy ideas. And then with some decent stakeholder boards say, okay, there could be some benefit, there can be some value. So it's like the little experiments, like what Emad said. But I would say bring in young talent.
Good answer. Bring in young talent, and they can tell you whether or not they're dealing with archaic systems. Emad, how do you see it? How do you know if you're doing a good job?
Absolutely, there is no other way other than the way Vincent said it. We have to bring the right people, give them the right empowerment, the right support to try things, to experiment things. The way people should judge about their success in data, how is data positioned in the organization? Is it the main tool for decision making? Is it the way I serve my customer? Is it the way I take internal decisions whether to stop this product or grow this product? Is it to reprice this product, etc.? Is it the way that I engage with the customer? Do I do personalized engagement with the customer? So where is data positioned in the organization? And this should pretty much tell organizations whether they're doing a good job or not. If they're only using data for board meetings and dashboards, this is something that organizations did 20 years ago. If they started using data to take decisions, whether with the customer or internal decisions, then they started working on it, or it's a work in progress. If data is driving their business, or driving how customer is engaged, or driving how I'm taking customer risk, then they are, I think, one of the frontier organizations in this using their data assets. I'm not a fan of the hypes. We should get the best out of the new technology without dragging the organization. Am I ChatGPTing in everywhere in the bank or not? This shouldn't be the measure. The measure should be, am I generating value as comparing to my competition when it comes to customer experience, when it comes to internal decisions, when it comes to empowering my staff. So this is the real measure. And I think thanks to ChatGPT, it brought everyone aware about what data and what AI can do for organizations. It was an excellent marketing tool, especially the point you said about board members, about the bigger kind of age groups in the organization. So people know it's all about how do they ensure that they are on the right track versus they're just data is a commodity to them just for reports.
Perfect. Emad, thank you so much for that. Vincent, I really appreciate your powerful insights, and I hope you don't give up on building your own LLM. That is a remarkable project for someone to have attempted.
I will buy
it. Guys, thank you so much for your time. We covered a huge amount of ground. So from FinTech Talk, thank you very much. See you next week.
Bye-bye.